That would be bad.
No, the next one.
That's what my dad always told my sister, because she was always the last one ready
For anything.
Right.
You know, I told her she can be like,
Called
you
evidently, I
know.
had.
The wrong
went to
month.
Ballpark and-
That's like
One fill.
my recheck for my cardiologist, he called and scheduled it for next month. I said, well, I must not be dying if they put me off a month.
That would be
So,
good.
yeah, he got out of town on family emergencies. I said, okay.
Right on time, Dave.
I'm gonna let her sit down.
Meeting day today.
Oh, we
Just
were
got
at another
from,
meeting?
I just got back from Eggleston.
Oh, the
Yeah.
budget meeting?
That's a long ways away.
Oh my, the scouts.
They'll sit in the front.
Are we all good? I want you to catch your breath.
I'm fine.
Okay. Meeting will come to order. We'll start with pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, roll call please.
Donna Stedman.
Here.
Lisa Note.
Here.
Melanie Arbogast.
Present.
Lyle Manette.
Here.
Debbie Terry.
Here.
Okay, one thing that's not on here, but because we have a full board, even though it's a special board meeting, I'd like to add to the agenda in looking over the amendment, budget amendment. There was not one budget amount on there for the actual mileage, so we'll need to add a line, and that would be your document
062513-01.
and I'll tell you the expenses number and the dollar amount to add, if you got that in front of you. The number is 101-276-860. Fiscal year 2014 initial would be 0. The amendment amount would be 160. So that's the only change.
And what was that for, Melanie?
That would be for the mileage. We do not have that in the budget. The cemetery for the education, for the sexton travel or mileage.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So now we'll go to the agenda items, which would be the budget amendment. And Lisa has the information on the cost there, the reason behind the amendment for that.
Oh, we only had $100 allotted in the budget for the cemetery education. And so we are asking for an amendment, with Robert Dykema and James Dykema going to the cemetery education in Mount Pleasant. Both of them want to go, and it's $158 total, but we only had $100 in the budget for education. So we're asking for an amendment of $158, which would cover both of them to go to the seminar. Correct? I'm sorry? I thought somebody said something.
So that would be where the added expense of the mileage.
And then we did not even have that as a line item in the budget, so we're asking for approval to have that added as well. And I just did the trip to Mount Pleasant, so that is almost to the penny. The $160 to be added and amended to the budget.
So I'm looking for approval of document 062513-01. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the amendments.
I'll support.
Roll call, please.
Debbie?
Yes.
Lyle?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Melanie?
Aye. Motion is carried. The second item is document 062513-202, and that's a building and grounds trailer usage policy. We have a new trailer out there. It's actually already been used. Seemed to have gone well. But we tend to have a lack of policies, so hopefully we can create policies we need as we go and still go back and correct other ones we need to. But this is the building and grounds trailer usage policy and the layout of who can use it, how it can be used, and how we have to keep track of how it's used and stuff that's got to be maintained within that trailer and the trailer itself.
Do you want me to read it out loud?
If you so desire.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, again, document 062513-02, building and grounds trailer usage policy. Are you finding that, Don?
Pardon?
Is that what you're looking
Yeah, I read it.
for? Okay.
I read it last night.
All right, I'll proceed. Blue Lake Township has purchased a Proline 2013 20-foot cargo trailer for the storage and transportation of groundskeeping equipment. The trailer shall be moved by authorized personnel only. The township clerk shall be responsible for the approval of those persons authorized and shall maintain a list of those authorized on file. A driving background shall be required of each authorized person transporting the trailer. Proof of insurance shall be required for the personal vehicle to be used to transport the trailer. A log in and out shall be filled out for each day's use. Any problems with the trailer or equipment shall be noted on the log at the end of the day and brought to the attention of the maintenance department. Trailer keys are held by the following: township clerk, maintenance person. Any other authorized user shall get the trailer key from the clerk and return the key to the township hall at the end of each day. If the town hall is closed, use the drop box. The list of approved areas the trailer is to be used are as follows: Township Hall, Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, Blue Lake Cemetery, Ware Cemetery, other areas on an as-need basis as approved by the township clerk. And then this policy shall take effect immediately upon adoption of the township board.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Now, the people that are authorized personnel, you, Lisa, as clerk, are going to authorize who can use it and who cannot?
Correct.
Okay. If somebody from the township comes to you and says, I would like to use it for something other than the first 4, they want to use it for something else.
That would be brought to the board's attention.
Okay.
I'm not going to make that decision.
Are you talking about someone other than the people that
The
are?
pre-authorized people.
Yeah, what other,
It's
who
not
would
going to be open for general.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Okay,
I don't
no.
know how we were gonna, who the pre-authorized people would be.
Yeah.
Would the pre-authorized people be like Bob and both Bobs?
Correct.
And
At this point, that's all there is. That's all I
Yeah.
see need with, but
yeah,
if anybody else requested to use it, it would have to come to the board, but I won't make that call.
You're talking about just someone from the community?
Well, how about a
Yes.
situation like Bob Dykeman wants to use it, but his truck is not running, so he calls me and asks me if I could use my truck to haul it down and back.
Well, you would have
Are
to
you
be
the
on
one that would
file.
authorize me to drive it for him, or how would that work?
Hold it. If it's your truck only and Bob's still driving it, proof
No.
of insurance, if you're driving it,
Oh,
you
I
would
be
have to
driving
go,
it.
you definitely would have to go through Lisa, and you gotta remember, a driving background check has to be done, and that's not instantaneous either.
Well, what is a background check?
That's just driving record, to see if you
do we have to
Take
pay
it
for
there.
that as a township?
have,
I haven't been charged for one yet.
because we have to do it regarding the fire department personnel. So, but it isn't like the public use thing, that would be a whole different realm that the board would have to definitely go on. At this point, in fact, the list, I think it could be provided, it's July, there's only 2 people right now And she still has to do the background check because we didn't have this in place. So now, but she does have proof of insurance for,
I do have.
for their vehicles, she
for
already
both.
has that.
Okay. So like Lyle said, if somebody needed to use his truck in order to move it, or somebody else's truck in order to move it for somebody, you know, but they want to drive it themselves, you would have to have a background check of the person.
And a proof of their, if they're using a personal vehicle, their insurance.
Right, okay. And well, how long does it take about to get a background check? Do you know,
It could
about a
be-
week?
I would say it's,
10 days
You're
to 2
dealing-
weeks.
you're dealing with the state, so it's not, that's at least a week,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
In other words, you're saying one person couldn't help another one out, I mean, that'd be impossible.
Well-
Based on
If
this
they called up that
policy.
morning and said they
Right.
needed help,
Right,
you
Right.
couldn't do it.
Right. And I think the first
That's
person, and that would be through Lisa, if need be, depending on what it is, would
I would
we
even
deal
have
with
to get
the,
myself authorized.
or the maintenance person?
I thought this was a cool idea, this is really neat. It's put
Oh, I
together.
think it is too. I just wanted.
Clarification?
Yeah, a couple.
Well, it's a good point that you bring up though, Kyle, because even
Yeah.
if I needed to tow it, I'm not cleared myself, so
Not at
that's a
this
very
point.
good point. Right,
But at this point, you would have to deal with, if there was an emergency situation, we would deal with,
We drop into that all the time.
yeah, and you also have the maintenance person too. But I understand what you're
It
saying.
might be a good idea just to get the background checks ahead of time, just in case.
Well, that's where Lisa's saying, I think, because she has
Would
the
that be-
means,
Yeah.
if necessary, I think that's something, you know,
that we need to look at.
yeah.
Right.
Do both Bobs have trucks to pull it? You do? Okay.
Yeah, both Bob's
Okay.
doing that, that's what I said, they already supplied their.
Right, they're
Insurance.
compliant so far.
Okay, that
So it's
sounds
just
great.
the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions?
All right, I'm looking for a motion to adopt document, go ahead a minute, 062513-02, moved by Don. Do I have a second?
I'll support.
Roll call, please.
Lyle,
Yes.
Debbie,
Yes.
Don,
Yes,
Melanie,
Aye.
Lisa.
Yes.
Motion is carried, effective today,
Yeah,
25. Next thing on the agenda is reviewing ordinance 24. We've had several different questions regarding that. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read ordinance 24 and what it is. We know at this point, the fire department's governed by ordinance 24 and their SOGs. So this is something, I know there's more than one question on this ordinance. I don't know who's had a chance to read it, and this is kind of just a loose discussion of the board. If they have questions in certain areas, because we really need to be able to research whatever information we're trying to find.
I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
Number one, the ordinance is the law, right?
The ordinance 24 is the law, correct?
And the SOGs really don't mean anything at this point.
Yes, they do. The SOGs are required to be created through ordinance 24 and help.
Okay, that was my next question. There's a lot of things that are totally opposite in the SOGs and in the ordinance.
In the ordinance itself, I don't believe so. Wait a minute, let's start out with, do you have just the ordinance, or do you have the ordinance and all them other papers that someone ended up with? Because the ordinance ends at this page right here. That is the end of the ordinance. All them other pages that are stuck in there are not part of the ordinance that you might have had from before.
We used them as part of the ordinance.
They were no longer a part when we started adopting the SOGs, from the very first set of SOGs. So I don't know who stuck them in there initially, but the ordinance itself is only 8 pages. This is the actual law. The other stuff is not. That was in there from before, and that has been gotten rid of because of the SOGs as they've been adopted. I think they were called SOPs originally, and then they got changed to SOGs. So there's some confusion there that I understand keeps coming back, I keep hearing about, that is not.
The SOGs are 100 and some pages. the 100 pages has to meld into this.
The
8
new
pages.
SOGs,
That's what I'm
the
talking
last ones we've
about,
adopted,
thick one.
correct. But only the ordinance itself, not the other stuff that was stuck in the ordinance book.
So what you're asking is, does one supersede the other? Is that your, I'm not understanding that.
No, because the ordinance is,
The ordinance is the law.
So that would supersede.
any
It
incorrection,
supersedes the whole big stack.
correct. If,
But what we have to do is make sure that everything in that SOGs agrees with the ordinance.
is compliant with the ordinance.
Okay.
That's
the
where,
current
to me, it's gonna be a lengthy deal trying to go page by page to figure that out.
Does everybody have does everybody have a copy of the current adopted SOGs?
I don't,
Yeah,
You're not sure if you do or not?
I don't
Okay.
think I do. I have a CD.
Okay,
I have a CD of it that Larry gave me.
so you could print it
I'll
off,
probably print it off, yeah.
okay. But the, I know the attorney reviewed it to see if it corresponded with or conflicted with ordinance 24. According to him, it did not conflict with ordinance 24. So,
Is there anything that anyone has brought up that they want changed in ordinance 24?
not at this point, but this is really our first meeting about it. And that's where I want to know what questions, and Lyle has a good question, and we got to make sure everybody has a copy of that, the SOGs, the currently adopted SOGs too. Because if everybody doesn't have one, then you're not looking at the whole picture, but understand what we're actually looking at is the ordinance itself, the ordinance 24 itself.
I will work on getting copies made and distributed to them.
Yeah, make sure, apparently Debbie's got one, but it's on a disc, so that's kind of inconvenient for reference points. I think, Don, do you have
You think, man?
the SOGs, the current SOGs?
Yeah.
Okay, and Lyle, you think you do? Okay. Well, the big thing on this is
I
in,
spent my vacation reading.
oh, okay. The thing on this is reviewing, and because we got sections here, and I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at the sections. We had one proposed change, which you guys all have copies of, that the board might or might not like or approve ultimately. I thought I brought it. Maybe I didn't.
I have it, this.
Yeah, so that's just an idea, so it definitely needs to be looked at. The one issue we have come up with that everybody is aware of is the fact that the way the ordinance is currently written, if anyone is disciplined, they have to have a public hearing. They don't have a right to a closed session, even though they're an employee, and the law allows that for employees. Because our law is stricter, our ordinance stands that they have to have it in a public hearing and cannot have a closed session. Question might be raised whether that's true or not, but that was upheld in court. So on a whole, that is where we're at. And there was a disagreement on whether that was right or not, because I believe there should be, but that's my opinion, that there should be some means. If the person desires a closed session, they have the right. The only way a closed session can happen is if that person requests it. The board can never force a closed session. It only can be through the appealer's request. So that's just, and I don't know what else. You really have to look at this. I would say, understanding the SOGs are out there, but this is the law itself. So this is the main thing that we have to make sure that we feel is working with where we're at today.
So we need to be sure that this is right and then go through the SOGs and
Well,
make sure that they follow.
Make sure the SOGs are working effectively with it, but this has been in effect since 1990. And so really no changes have come about, and we know that how it was written, does it still work with how fire departments are run today? Because they're not just volunteer fire departments anymore, they're paid on call. For the most part, all of them are. That
Not
kind
all
of
of them.
changes for the most
Big
part.
Beth has been called about it. They're a laughing joke down in Lansing.
Yeah,
Because we're in
I
that.
know whenever they started
Right.
changing the legislation
Yeah,
of the
not
wording,
volunteers.
if you got any compensation, it was no longer considered volunteer, and that meant any compensation. So, whether it was a paycheck or just any form, so that kind of
There's no such thing as a volunteer party.
no longer is, no. And that's where Lansing took it up in the legislators. But this is, I know it's just one of the ordinances that we need to review because it's one that has come up. Questions have been raised. We can still do it even within our process of codification. As we go through processes, and changes up to a certain point, they will incorporate those right into what they're doing. You know, and I'm not sure what that point is, they'll let us know when it's coming, so we definitely need to keep moving forward with whatever we're doing.
So who came up with the changes? Was that from the lawyer?
No, yeah, that was through BSNA's, or, yeah, not BSN, MTA's gentleman and our attorney. Doug's the one that drafted that, but I also spoke to, MTA.
What are the differences that were made without going into?
There's quite a bit of differences because that had to do with them right to request a closed session and how a closed session can be conducted, and the fact that instead of anything given orally, everything needs to be in writing,
Okay.
because there's been too many discrepancies of papers versus what people have said, so.
Okay.
It's just as an overall, like I said, might not be what the board wants overall. It's just something or somewhere to start, and that's just regarding just that portion. That isn't even going into. anything
Right,
else.
in the other sections that they had to change, they're just add additions, is that correct? Like in section 2, 3, and 4, they're just additions.
That was the end, yeah, that was the,
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah. You're talking about when there was section 1, it would have been actually incorporated within 2 instead of the numbering that's on there. So that's just,
Oh,
would
that
have to be.
doesn't have to do with our.
No, that would be,
ordinance.
if it was an amendment held separate, it would sever a certain section, and then this would be created.
Okay,
I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I'm not really sure how,
I see, this
you know,
is, okay, I see what it is.
so that was the idea behind that.
Okay. So that was the only change then?
Yeah. Yeah, but the wording was, in fact, the only people I spoke to were those two before this, was MTA and our
I
attorney.
did have a question.
On which part?
I have to find it. About reporting quarterly, but he's reporting monthly.
I'm not sure what
The
you're,
chief doing.
you're talking about.
Section 3D, the chief shall review all personnel and operating problems with and shall report monthly to the township board. A written report shall be filed annually with the township board? Is that what you're talking about?
It seemed like there was a
And-
quarterly report. he was doing.
I don't know,
Okay.
right now he's reporting monthly,
Yes.
but, and that's something we should look at, so. if we- So I think the best thing, I think Debbie's right, is we need to really look at this and write our questions down regarding ordinance 24 itself. Lisa will make sure everybody that doesn't have a copy of the current SOGs, and I believe it's just Debbie that doesn't have them.
Should we
in
look
the
at
current
like a
form.
work meeting? to
Yeah,
go
it's
through
still a
this?
special meeting. No matter what you do, it's always a special meeting.
Okay.
So a work session is how you word it. We're just reviewing it right now, so it's
Okay.
similar in what we're doing.
But that's one step.
But we
moving
don't
forward
have,
To do
yeah.
a work meeting.
unless there's specific questions, that's the only one I know has been raised. Is there anyone that I'm not aware of anymore? And if not, here's where we start.
But again, do you think we need to go page by page through the SOGs to make sure they're in agreement with 24, or what you're thinking on that?
My thought is we need to focus on ordinance 24 first and foremost. And we need to work on it with the SOGs, but we need to review just ordinance 24 first, because that'll, if there's questions regarding this, then we might
But
want
if
to
there's
refer.
something directly opposite in the SOGs, we need to catch that to put it into the ordinance, right?
We need to, well, we need to do something, yes. So I'm saying we need to start with the ordinance. And as we're going along, we need to look and see, because like I said, the attorney did review the SOGs to the ordinance to make sure they weren't out of
In
compliance.
conflict, yeah.
And not to say that he's not human too and couldn't have missed something, but we definitely should start with this if there's any questions raised.
But aren't the SOGs built more around the ordinance?
They're supposed to be, but humanly, we'll make sure.
Right.
But I think we need to start with the, is say, if we're gonna change something in here, how will it affect those SOGs too? So definitely we have to look at both, but this is the law, so ultimately, if we decide to change ordinance 24, then the SOGs would have to be changed to comply if it is conflicting with the ordinance, with the SOGs with the ordinance. So you're right there. That's, it's not gonna be a quick process, but if we come back at another meeting, and we're gonna have more work sessions, if we come back with questions, we can keep moving forward. We can't stay where we're at. We know there's a problem where we're at. So,
Okay, so what's the next step from here
I
then? Can we
think,
start reviewing this today?
certainly, yeah. I mean, we can look at, that's where I wanted to know if anybody had overall or other questions. You had the one about the report. Well, we need to look at that because really he's reporting monthly. Is it better to get a report monthly? I think so. Because that keeps you more in line with where things are at. Is there, that's why I wanted to know if there's any other questions that the board can think of offhand. I think a couple of good ones. We don't have, if Debbie hasn't had a chance to read the SOGs, she's kind of behind, and I don't know if you've had a chance to read them. So you're kind of behind on knowing how that works within the ordinance. You know, that's just something that has to be taken into account as we go along. But,
I've read some of the SOGs that I have, that I got in a packet from
okay.
someone, but I didn't know if they were the correct.
Right, and that's the whole thing, I guess what we want to make sure is everybody has the correct, the last copy, what's in effect right now versus anything from the past, because I keep seeing stuff come up that is from way back when and is included in the ordinance book, but shouldn't be a part of, because it's not a part of the ordinance itself.
Right, I think
And it keeps coming back, and then if you're looking at that versus what we're dealing with now, I'm not sure if there's a conflict or not, but it doesn't matter, because we've adopted a couple different things since then.
Right, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Well, and it has to be laid out so it's followable. Everybody can read it and understand it. This actually pretty well is laid out so you can read it and understand it, but. So there's other areas. Without everybody having read it and looked at any questions, we're gonna be taking time to say, okay, with this section, do you see something which you might or might not see sitting here?
I think they ought to go through
Mhm.
the other one and match it with this. It works.
Well, they're gonna have to at some point, but we've gotta make sure that we believe the ordinance itself is right, because without that, the others don't stand anyway.
Right.
Is this still true that this ordinance is to provide that the Blue Lake Township Board shall hereby establish the Blue Lake Township Fire Department? It's to establish jurisdiction and authority of the Township Board over personal selection.
You're reading that.
I am, the first one. To establish authority to adopt rules and regulations for the conduct of personnel and maintenance of equipment.
You're reading the scope. I thought you were reading the short title, but then you lost me.
Okay, short tab.
Short title.
Oh, the scope,
At the top.
purpose, and intent.
Yeah, but that's true, but that's what I'm saying, that's where you need to read down. Is that all true? Yes.
Okay.
Right now, all this is true. It's, does it, what works? Yeah,
Is this still working then?
That's the question, that you have to read it, so you can think about it, and I agree with
Okay.
Lyle, you're really gonna
So
have to read the
basically for the
SOPs.
board, then we're kind of at a standstill until everyone gets
Unless there's
more
other,
versed.
unless there's other questions. Don, in your line, did you have any other questions raised
No.
regarding the ordinance?
No, I've been through that thing so many times. Dinner time, evening time, whatever,
Okay,
piece by piece.
and Debbie wants, and you and Debbie haven't read all the SOGs, so,
Right.
so you wouldn't really know, without having read that and this, whether they're working in conjunction?
Okay, so I need a vacation to take the SOPs on.
They're not that long.
Well, see, what happens is you get tired,
Yeah.
so you want to go away from it for a little bit, then come back.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You got to take, you have time to ruminate on it. But this is a start.
Now, this amendment, if this is gonna go into this ordinance, we don't have all this stuff at the top. This is just gonna be part of, it'll be a new section 6.
Actually, adopting an amendment to an ordinance is just like adopting an ordinance.
But we're
So-
going to adopt the ordinance because we're gonna make other changes, certainly.
If you're making other changes, if you were only making just that, then you would refer to the fact that it voids that part, supersedes it. Now, once that becomes non-effective, then this does. This would go in, but it doesn't go back in the original thing. The original thing would have that cross line through, it still would be there, just not in effect. And then you would have a new amendment, which is just like a new policy, or new
So
ordinance.
how does that work with the codification then?
The codification is not changing anything that we don't already have. What it is doing is it is taking the laws we have, and it is comparing them to what is laws regarding the federal, state, and county government, that
This is the
if they
amendment.
supersede our laws,
Amends.
or if our laws are not in compliance, we would be notified
Okay.
of those. So even
It is
while they're
just
in the
section
process,
C.
they will let us
6.
send forth anything we've changed or adopted
Okay.
through the process, and they will incorporate it in.
Okay.
If we hit a certain point where they can't do that anymore, then that goes into the maintenance contract where you keep putting any changes through.
Okay.
So it still shows up there. I think the codification will make all this easier ultimately, and then we'll put it on the web. So definitely will make it easier for people to read, easier to read. I understand what you're saying, Lisa, of starting to go through it piece by piece, but I think that's only gonna be effective if everybody does it individually first and gets an idea if they have questions. Because if somebody says, well, I have a question about this, and you don't know what they're talking about, it's gonna be, well, let me read it, so we're back to,
Okay, just so I'm following this, then, I've, since being new in this position, that it's come to my attention that there's not a good trail of current inventory within the fire department. Like just a good list. Is that something that we could
are-
implement in that requires?
you could implement it in that way, you could implement it in a policy from the board to the fire department, you could do it different ways. Does it need to be in the ordinance itself? There is a current somewhat, I'm not sure how definitive it is because it's required by our insurance company. So through the insurance company, there is a list of inventory. Not to say it's exhaustive, it's probably the bulk of the equipment and turnout gear and stuff like that. Stuff that's insured. So that's a good point, but that would necessarily have to be in the ordinance as much
But
as.
just kind of trying to figure
Yeah, that's a
out,
good,
figure out what direction I'm supposed to go in with the information that I have.
right, that's a good point. Because we were talking about that over here. We have one through the insurance company because we're required when we get new equipment to let them know what it is. But how complete is that list? That's a good point. We should
Even on our
review.
end,
We
as
should
far as-
review it.
Some of the, talk with the fire chief too, because in my conversation with the insurance company, they were flabbergasted with the information that they were able to obtain with their inspection. that was in place already.
You're talking about the insurance inspection, the last one we had was
Yeah.
last year, was 2010.
To the-
We have one every 3 years,
Yeah, last year,
and
The
that's
last one.
with, Cindy White
yeah.
is the one that comes out, there's a
By-
file. Should be a file with that. That has to do with, it has to do with all that, it has a lot of information in that they require.
Okay.
So,
So it may be already be, it may already be, it probably already is in place, and I just
but if we're not,
don't know it's there yet.
if we're not updating it, on the township end or on, with anything we get, then we gotta make sure we get in the habit of updating anything that comes in as it does. Because you have, like with the trailer, example. The trailer was one of the first things you did, you contacted the insurance company and updated our policy regarding the trailer.
Right. But did I
That's-
add it to any inventory list? No, I don't know if that one exists.
Just through the insurance company, and that's a good point. Good point too.
So actually, the files that the fire department has, Lisa should have everything
She
wrote
doesn't,
down as in an inventory, that's what you're saying, right,
Right.
Lisa? That
The-
you want to have a copy of that, you should have a copy of that, because that's where it's supposed to stay, is at in the clerk's.
well, there is, you're not gonna have every single piece of information they have over there.
I don't think
Personnel
that's-
records are, but not, it doesn't say everything. I mean, they have to maintain records. What we wanna do is make sure they're maintaining them over there. And if she wants a copy, certainly on this end, because we have to supply it to our insurance company
Requested.
for covered stuff. You're just talking about for what we have, what equipment we have, and when equipment's taken out. When we have equipment that you no longer have, is that removed in a timely manner? No, it's usually removed when we get our new insurance quote, and they said, here's a list of the equipment we have. Should we, oh, well, wait a minute, we don't have this, this, and this. If we'd have gotten it taken off sooner, would we have gotten credit? I don't know.
Right.
Good thing, good point, because you do on your home, your own insurance, so, I don't know, good point. That's, I think. I don't know.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out how it plays into, or is it separate from, or is it,
You're saying should it be
is there
included in the
another
ordinance?
route that it should
Not everything should
be
be,
enforced?
right, not everything has to be included in the ordinance, but that doesn't mean it can't be a policy and isn't just as effective as long as it's not against the ordinance. As long as it's a, board policy, then it needs to be adhered to,
Okay.
so.
Our audience is
Any
full.
other? Yeah, well, this is the boring part. Is there do you have anything else, Debbie?
No, I don't.
Lyle? Any other suggestions on how we should review it? Piece by piece?
Section by section?
Reading, yeah. How about you, Don? Anything else?
Good.
Lisa? You made your note of what you're gonna try to find out?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I think what we need to do really is homework. Getting an idea of where we're at on this and if there's changes and what the changes need to
Should we
be.
determine a time that we meet back up?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's,
You need to set one.
it's gonna be into July. I don't, yeah. Here. Thank you. I know when Debbie's gonna be gone. The end of the month, so, did you have something? And
Mine won't
yours in
interfere.
July, okay.
It's in July, but it won't interfere unless you're gonna do it on Friday.
You're talking about just,
That's just a.
No,
day trip.
no, no,
I'm
no.
not gonna be
Yeah.
gone.
And Sarah will be here on the 18th. So
Okay.
that won't be good either, she's here in the afternoon.
I'm
What about,
looking at,
when is, Debbie, what week are you gonna be gone?
The 22nd.
Right, this week,
Wednesday.
last
Okay.
week.
Okay, so what about that? Oh. and
It has to be
Sarah's-
the 18th, you said Sarah's gonna be here.
Right.
Mhm.
But we could do it the Monday or Tuesday prior, right?
In the afternoon.
Yep, and that would be post-board meeting too. So. And that's given us 2+ weeks to,
It's giving you, what is today, 25th?
that's what I'm saying, 2+ weeks to
It'd give you 3 weeks, as long as you can get
do
done.
some reading and make some notes and.
Yeah,
And by the end of the week, I can have the SOGs to the people that don't have them and have those to compare. Does that work for you, Lyle?
what are you looking at as a, what are you looking at? We're talking about the 15th or the 16th.
July 16th is fine.
I would rather have it on a Tuesday because I work in the afternoons on Monday.
So Tuesday, Tuesday the 16th. We'll still go with 3, does that work?
Works
Or is
great.
that too late, too early?
Does 3 o'clock work for you, John?
It can be earlier if you
You
want.
can be earlier? That's not
I
your,
get 2 instead, that's fine. It
That's
doesn't
not
matter.
your
It was My
meeting?
problem today was I had another meeting that I was at in this meeting.
okay, so why don't we go 2,
All right.
2 o'clock on the 16th?
July 16th, 2 p.m. And then, I'll see if there's anything else, because I know there was other questions, if anything needs, else that we can introduce somewhere along the line. Right? That's what we'll figure on.
Excellent.
Public comment? If you have any, kindly step up to the microphone. There you go, Dale.
Dale Wiesner, 1318 East White Lake Drive. I don't know what your policy is on logbook for your equipment. When I was in the service, every piece of equipment had a logbook on it. That trailer doesn't sound like it would need much, but it would need a logbook on who signs in and out, approximately how many miles they put on it. Went the last time they had maintenance put on it, grease it and all that, use bearings. It could be a check off list where you walk around it when you sign it out to look for any dents or damage to the trailer. You can check the tires, not for air pressure, but you can look at the tires and make sure that they look like they're in good shape. Just a check off like that to help keep track of what's going on with your equipment, whereas I think you probably have basically the same thing in your fire department. They have checklists of what goes out and who does it. That's the only way you can be sure you're keeping up to date on your oil changes and stuff, because time goes by and you just don't realize. And when I go in my logbooks at home, it was 2 years ago I changed my oil, so stuff will slip by off easy. Just a way of keeping track of it, and if there's any problems coming up, you can document it that way.
We
Thank you.
have something similar to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gotta expand it. Yeah.
Yep.
Dodo, 11315 Blue Lake Road. There's a House bill in the State House of Representatives right now that's looking to increase the fees for medical first responders. Currently, there's no charge for that. They want to raise it to $75 for your initial license application, and then $50 every year afterwards, or every time you renew your license. They want to increase the fees to the fire department. Because the fire department carries a license, each vehicle that's licensed under the fire department will have an increase. And I'm totally against this. I think it's something that the House of Representatives, in my quick review of the bill, that they appropriated money, and then they came up with a way to raise the money for that. They're trying to get another $1 million or so. And they want to get it off the backs of volunteer firefighters. And yes, I do volunteer some of my time.
They specify
Thank-
that, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you. This isn't a question, it's just a comment.
Okay.
Well, we can look into it, thank you.
I just want you to be aware of it so that you can, I don't know if we can turn around and charge the township for those, because the township requires the license of the firefighters, so I would like to pass it back on, but I don't want to see that done. The government needs to support us, not start draining money from people that are out here to protect us. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other comments? Meeting is adjourned.
I can ask a question.
Joe?
Now you
hang
up my horse.
I'm gonna ask what the house bills on the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
When was it?